Greetings. I am Tyra Omilade, your goddess guru, your sister friend, and you know I love helping women align with their life purpose using the power of ancient wisdom and the goddess centered lifestyle. And today I am here to give you just another installment in what I am calling the launch, leading to the doors opening to the sacred calabash Ileke initiation. Are you interested? Today, I just want to talk a little bit about my journey. So, yeah, this is part two. Come on in. Hello. How are you, dear sister goddess, sister friend? Alafia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the third recording that I have made about the path to the Ileke initiation. And I'm excited to talk about, I guess you could call this part two. I talked about my childhood in the last recording and want to pick up where I left off here. So I am an initiated priestess into the ancient African spirit tradition called, I call it Ifa or the Orisha tradition. I am initiated into Yemanja. I'll tell you a little bit about that today. And my goal is to help any women out there who want to initiate into this tradition to help you to be able to do that. And I want to help you make a decision. Is this the process for you? Am I the Iya for you? And are you ready? Is this good time for you? Some people may not know much about the tradition, so hopefully you'll learn a little bit and it will, at the very least, educate you on one person's journey. But, doing my part to help everybody step into this beautiful tradition. I talked about this in part, the first recording that I put out, and I talked about how the VP Harris losing in November 2024 put a fire under me and made me say, hey, I want to help Black women, melanated women, especially Black women. I'm just being honest. I told y'all in that recording, all I can do is be honest right now. It's like I gotta get Black people shored up as much as I can, and I see this tradition as a way for us to tap into the power that our ancestors had long ago, and there's just some power in it. We have a tradition in the United States. Most of us don't practice it. Who do? So to me, this is our way of really using our spiritual power and ancient teachings to help us to be protected. That's just, how I see it. I have friends who are Latina. This is a part of their tradition, maybe the Lukumi, Santeria, maybe even, out of the Brazilian Candomblé. Many have asked me, hey, yeah, I want to initiate with you. So yeah, I'm open to whoever this is for. 95% of the people who I work with are African American women or Black women, I should say. But I work with largely women of color, and they're women who are white or Asian, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, I hear the call. I want to get my lekes. So if that's you, come on in." Um, but yeah, I just have to be honest about why I really decided to do something that I sort of never thought I would do. And my goal is to share my experience. I want y'all to understand the beauty of joining this tradition. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I will be sharing some of the downsides of it, and it's not really the spiritual tradition, it's dealing with the people and people who are dogmatic, but we can handle that. We can handle that. I think that being a part of this tradition helps you to heal. that has been one of the main things for me is feeling so lost and finding this tradition and it helping me it's like this restoration. I had all these holes in me and this tradition has helped me to feel more whole. Now, we'll be talking about what is this? What can it do for you and what can it do for you? Won't what it won't do. What is your role? But ultimately, if you come in and you practice this spirituality, it's going to work. So today I want to start off with talking about I have some notes. Okay. I want to start off with talking about it's 2002 and I have met my teachers and I met them in 2001 and so in 2002 some kind of way, I don't remember how exactly it happened, but I think there were 4 or 5 of us. It wasn't a big number and we wanted to get our lekes. We wanted to consciously step onto this path. And, one thing that I definitely need to say is part of the challenge when you decide you're going to do this is dealing with all the people who don't understand why you want to do it. They're, and these are your family, friends, people in your more of your inner world. And I really struggled. If I had not been married to my husband, maybe it would have felt a little easier. But we got married, and I was Christian when I married him, and man, and he's devout. He's a devout Christian, and so oh man, it was like this is kind of scary, right? So some of y'all might be dealing with that. And I'm grateful that my husband and I were meant to be. That's all I got. Neither one of us, I mean, we love each other and we just are respectful. And we've had to have hard conversations. So yeah, I'm hanging out with people and doing all the spiritual stuff. And that might be something that is holding you back a little bit. It might be something that you have a concern about. My position is this. When we step onto the path that we're supposed to be on, the ancestors and the Orisha, they will make a way. Okay. They will make a way. I think it's becoming more and more common for people in a relationship to have different spiritual practices and, be a part of different religions. I kind of feel like my husband and I were we were kind of at the beginning of this new trend. And, again, I'm just grateful. Can I say? I'm super grateful. Um, I have always respected him as a Christian minister. He became a Christian minister in 2002. Interesting. I got my ilekes in 2002, and he became an ordained minister in 2002. We were both having this awakening at the same time. And essentially, what ended up happening was he said, "Hey, I got to figure out my own path. I don't have time to be trying to convince you to not be, whatever it is that you're doing." And yeah, so that was a little nerve wracking, but I just kind of felt like if I didn't go on ahead and step onto this path, life wasn't going to be right. I was feeling like a liar and a fraud going to church. And for one period of time, I even stopped going because I was just like, I'm just not feeling it. And then I went back once he became a minister because I wanted to support him. I felt that my guides, my ancestors told me to go back. Um, but yeah, I was just like, I have to answer this call because if I don't, I just feel like I'm dying a slow death. So I have no regrets. And I just kind of feel like we all have to live our lives full out. There's a price we're going to pay either way. So you may as well do what your spirit is calling you to do, and, at least you're gonna die having done what you felt was right, and it felt scary, but I've never regretted it because being a part of this tradition, it just matches who I am spiritually, and I just love it. And so, yeah, I got my Ilekes and, ooh, this is interesting, just kind of recanting it. I love that process, that ceremony. It was more of a ceremony. We did have some calls. I never lived in the same city as my Iya and Baba. So we did have some calls, and we had to write a paper to let them know we've studied these Orisha. Again, Eshu, Obatala, Shango, Oshun, Yemonja. Those are who we start out with the Elekes. And they really emphasize the importance of understanding that when we go into this religion, it's about us using the religion to become more of who we were born to do, to understand that we have power within us, and to do work to help heal the world, to step more fully into our destiny. And I think it is because they saw a lot of sort of like misuse and in some ways abuse of the system, because people one of the things we do is we work with the Orisha. They help us. We work with our ancestors. They help us. My position is working with the Ori, which is the higher self, you could say, and the Orisha are key. They are tantamount. And then the Orisha are important. And so this religion, you can even hear of people doing amazing things. I've not witnessed it, but my godmother mentioned going to Africa, and she can see people doing amazing things with this spiritual tradition. But sometimes it's more of how are we healing on the inside? What are we really doing with the spiritual tradition? Is it helping us to heal, grow, evolve, and succeed? Or are we just using it when we have a problem? For those who've gone to church, I don't know about other religions, it's kind of like, why are you just coming to talk to God when you got a problem? We should be having a relationship. And that's, I think, very important. And the relationship is about us becoming better people. It shouldn't just be, I'm a part of this religion because I need something. And I think that they saw that misuse and abuse of the system, uh, and just were like, we're not going to be sharing it in that way. This is a path to enlightenment, self realization, self mastery. And I just have to go on ahead and say it now. This religion is not going to fix you, okay? This religion requires you to do your own work. I was initiated into, the way they taught us was we don't do animal sacrifice because that is a part of the tradition. I mean, that's just how it is. And if they had done animal sacrifice, I would not be a part of this religion. Their thing was enough blood has been shed. But ultimately, my position is we see people doing this animal sacrifice, but, like, really, how is their life really looking? Like, did that animal really need to give up its life in this way? Because I eat meat, so I'm not even trying to act like it's some regard I'm not okay, I get it. If you eat meat, you're in an animal sacrifice in a way. Got it. But I'm not gonna be doing animal sacrifice. This is me. I don't want it. So if you want somebody who does animal sacrifice, I'm not the ear for you. Um, because I feel you should make your own sacrifice. What are you gonna sacrifice inside of you? What are you gonna change? Why should that animal die to fix us? right? If I know that I have some character flaw, baby, I need to be doing some other it's called ebo is what the sacrifice. Now, it's not always animal sacrifice. Ebo is not always that. Um, but for me, and this is just how I was taught, the greatest ebo you can make is the one where it's if it feels like it's a sacrifice, you're gonna have to work this spiritual tradition. You are going to have to do the work. But it's just set up in a way, you get out in nature, there's ritual, there's chanting, there's prayers, there's different things that we can do like that. That there's the Odu, which are it's the spiritual wisdom, and you get to sit and ponder with the Odu. That's why I say this is a religion, because a lot of religions have all of this. And then you have to go out into your life. You've got to go out into your life and you've got to apply everything that you're learning. We call it sitting on the mat. A lot of times when you go get a reading, there's a mat and you sit on the mat, and the oracle shells or the opon, whatever they're using, oh, my mind is not fully on right now. It'll come back to me. But anywho, they're using the instruments to get that reading for you. You're sitting on the mat. You're hearing the wisdom. And then you could get a 2,000 readings if you want, but if you do not apply those 2,000 readings, then you're not going to change. And that is one of the biggest messages that I can give. If you're in a lot of pain and you think this religion is just going to fix you, it's not. It's going to support you in your growth, and we all are gonna have to just do the work. So please, please, please know that. Um, so yeah, I get the Ilekes and I start trying to learn a little bit more because, like I said, they taught us a little bit, but there wasn't much that I can remember. I had a second son after that, and I just don't remember much. And once my second son was born, that's when I initiated into the Sacred Feminine Mysteries, which is a goddess tradition, and spent a huge amount of time um, going through. So in a way, I was doing that, but I just remember, man, the internet was kind of nice for Ifa and the Orisha back in the day. People were putting all kinds of Odu up and videos, and it was just a plethora. And that's when I began to find out you can get really confused. It can be, and it's overwhelming, and you don't always trust yourself. And some of the tradition has been really preserved by people who speak Spanish. So if you don't speak Spanish, there's a whole bunch of websites you couldn't look at. So yeah, it, it I just really kind of piecemeal. I've always been more of a solo practitioner. If you decide you want to join me, I want to do more, but I'm not going to have an egg bay. Okay. You would do better to just hang with me, stick with me. There's a Babalao who I like to work with, Baba Omi, or Awa Omitosin. And, maybe you can attend some of his more Orisha focused events or classes, whatever. But I've always been somebody, to me, Ifa, the Orisha tradition is truly one where you will largely work it at home. You're going to have your spiritual space, and that's some of the things that we talk about if you decide to join me in the initiation, and just how to work with the ancestors and do some of the rituals. I've largely just been alone, and I had to figure quite a bit out. And that's one of the reasons why I'm setting this up the way that I am, is because a lot of people get their lekes, and they don't. It's just you just get your lekes. Like I said, a lot of people don't have any fanfare. It's almost like you just walk into the church and you decide you're going to join, and then you're going to start figuring some stuff out the more you hang. Well, because I know I'm not an egg bay, I'm not gonna be regularly gathering. I do plan on gathering more, and if any SFM or SAI ladies are listening, we will be doing more gathering. But I need to make sure that you all get a very good start. Okay. Now, when I got my Ilekes, I wasn't told. I had already gotten a reading and they said Oshun, Obatala ruled my head. Made sense at the time. So I get the Ilekes. I will tell you about your guardian Orisha. Now, if you decide you're going to initiate, I'm not making no guarantees that what I choose or, what the oracle chooses because it's not me actually. We do a reading to figure out who you're Orisha. And if you decide you're going to become a priest or a priestess, I should say, I'm thinking men and women, but if you're working with me, if you're deciding you're going to be a priestess, then, that might be something else. You might be like me, you get initiated into something else. Um, but yeah, well, the Odu, it's like you get to have an Odu, and every time you get a reading, you get an Odu. The Odu is the sacred scripture, what speaks. It's like if you were to get a reading from tarot, the different archetypes through the tarot speak. The Odu are the sacred scriptures and texts. And, it's like an Orisha will speak through that particular Odu and it gives you guidance. So, it was like lovely. It is so fun when you first start. Even though, sometimes it's like, what am I doing? So, uh, fast forward to 2008. I think it was around 2008, 2009. For some reason, I have 2008. And yeah, it was around 2009. I start the process to become an Orisha priestess. So, that particular process, then, so you can see there's a big gap. 2002 to about 2008, 2009, all I had was the, Ilekes. And then when I decided to become an Orisha priestess, then let me say this. I heard the call. I really want y'all to see it that way. It's not just a decision because it's a huge responsibility, no matter what the reason is that you might would be called into the priesthood. So, a reading was done to determine if it was time for me to initiate. I felt like I was supposed to, but they did a reading and the oracle did indicate, yes, it was time. So, in all that time, that's all I had was the Elekes. And so, in order to go through the initiation, the next step was to get my warriors. And I can't remember what happened. I was still a homeschool mom. I could not make it to Kentucky to get my warriors. They sent everything to me and I did my own warrior ceremony. It was really interesting because the day I decided to go on ahead and do it, it was like I wanted to involve all of the elements. And so, like, there's this river near me, and there was this little stream. And so I went to the stream to connect with Oshun and Yemoja. And then I had to cross some railroad tracks. So that involved Ogun. And I had to pass this big hill. It's huge. I never want to drive up. It's not really a mountain, but it's this very high hill. I had to pass that to come home. And as I was coming home, of course, I went through an intersection and there was a thunderstorm, lightning. So Shango, there was wind. Oya, I was just like, you cannot tell me that these are this warriors, whatever it was I was supposed to do, that this ain't real. Oh my gosh, you can't tell me the Orisha is not real. And what I just did to go through whatever they told me to go through for my warriors. Now, I'm not saying that I would do warriors long distance at this point. I don't know. Because at some point, for me at Luck A's, we can do this virtually for some people. But as we start getting deeper, we probably want to start doing things in person. But anywho, I was fortunate. I was fortunate. I was fortunate. And Then the next step was to continue to go through the initiation. Well, at that point, there was a problem that I had with my godparents. And I just decided I'm not gonna move forward at this time. At some point, we came back together, it was resolved, and that was maybe around 2010. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. It was 2014. I don't know how I got left off the email. They started up with the next group. That's how long they went. They started up with the next group, and it just so happened that I was talking to somebody who was in the group, and she told me what was, that she was going through the initiation to be a priestess. And I contacted my godmother and I was like, I've been saying I wanna do this. What happened?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know how you got left off the email." So I was like, "Okay, well, can I start?" And it's crazy because the point where they were was the group that was going through, they were just getting their warriors. You can't make this stuff up. So I came right back in at the moment that I had left. And so, yeah, we finished that in, summer solstice, 2014, and that is when I completed the rites to become an Orisha priestess initiating into Yemoja. So, they have their process of taking people through, into becoming priestesses and priests and priestesses, and it reflects their teachings. It's called Journey to the Priesthood. Mine was a little bit more traditional, but I come from godparents who their not motto, what they say is many paths, one truth. This is the foundational teaching. Many paths, one truth. And so their initiation largely kind of reflected that. To me, the final rites were very traditional. And so I have a mix. I'm a little bit of a mix. Though for me, if I'm going to lead you into this tradition, I am doing things as traditionally as I can. I do just want to take a moment to say I consider Santeria to be traditional, Lukumi to be traditional, Candomblé to be traditional. If it was not for those traditions, Ifa, where would it be? At the end of the day, they all came from Ifa. Ifa, in Yoruba land is what I'll call it. Isheshe, the more traditional practice as it has been practiced in Africa. I do my best to be more Isheshe, and I am very clear. I really want y'all to know this because I was brought into this tradition by godparents who are more eclectic. There's some of the traditional, like, I've never been to Africa. I did not initiate in Africa. I initiated here in the United States. And so, it's kind of like you need to decide how traditional do you want to be. Now, I'm not gonna be mixing anything in here. Because I want you to come into this and understand the tradition. Now, this is where I am a little bit firm in my mind, everybody needs to come in here and learn about the tradition, in the best way possible. I want y'all to also begin to see that there are differences in the way that it is done in West Africa versus Santeria, Lukumi, Candomblé, because they did become their own, in a way, their own tradition, religion. They're their own. They're unto themselves. And I think that's a great thing. And as somebody who is in the diaspora, I ain't dogging nothing that's a part of the diaspora that help to support people like that. Okay. And They got some good stuff in those spiritual traditions. Where I deviate, and I'll talk about this in another recording, is I'm not doing nothing. I don't care if it's from West Africa, one of these traditions here in the diaspora, I don't care. I will do nothing if I'm not getting nothing from it. Because if I want to give you one of the downsides, it's very easy to come in here and just go through the motions and do things that don't really align. There were times when I actually began to kind of think, I don't want to practice E5 if my life is going to look like this person. I don't want to practice it like them because I don't like the way their life looks. There's a dark side to this thing. And so I feel like it's important to respect the tradition. If you know people who are part of an Egbe, or going over to Africa and animals are being sacrificed, I'm not criticizing them for that. I don't have nothing to do with it because that is the tradition. The problem that we have a lot of times is all this judgment. I'm just not gonna judge judge them. Um, some of the things that I see in, the traditions that are in the diaspora, I'm like, "Y'all, this is too much." It's like pettiness, legal, you gotta be legal, or it makes you almost like do stuff, and it's manic. I'm like, "What are we doing?" My thing is, if you whatever you're doing, Imma need for you to see what difference it's making in your life. Are you showing up and you feeling more calm? Are you having better interactions with the people in your life? Are you making more money? If you were struggling with money, are you getting better with money? Not necessarily because you're doing some ritual just to make that money happen, but you literally are able to begin to do this spiritual work, follow the wisdom of the Odu. Listen to the wisdom of the Orisha, your ancestors, your Ori, to help you to understand why in the world you got these money problems in the first place. Getting to the root cause of the problem. Is your life looking different as you practice this spiritual tradition? That is very important to me. And so I am going to give you, as much as I can, more traditional Ifa in this initiation, because I don't want y'all to be out in those streets and say, "Well, Tyra didn't tell me this." Yeah, no, y'all not gonna do that. Y'all'll be ready. That's my goal. And at some point, your Ori, your ancestors, and the Orisha will begin to help you to come up with the practices that work best for you. And that is the ultimate, and it is a beautiful thing. So, let's see here. I initiated, and again, very non-traditional approach afterwards, because they told us, you go home, you sit on your mat with your pot, because when you initiate, you get, well, just about with anything. Like, the first thing you're gonna get are the beads. It's like you're always getting something to work with. I love that about Ifa. I love my ilekes. You don't see me wearing them much because, um, I have something going on with my neck, and it hurts when I wear anything on my neck for very long. But, I love the ilekes so much. We'll talk a little bit more about them, but it's always like it made me feel that connection to the Orisha within and without, because that's what we teach. We teach that the Orisha are in you. They're not just out in the world. You have access to this energy within you. And it's like, how do I access, like, oh, I'm working with Obatala today. What is it that I need to do, Obatala? Oh, and then, when you get the warriors, you get these implements, you get the hand of Ifa. That's something else I forgot to mention. So becoming a priestess, they did all of ours together within the initiation. So I got the warriors, I got the hand of Ifa, and then, I went through initiating, and I don't exactly know, actually. I will learn this for you all. People who initiate in Africa, I assume they have pots, but here in in the diaspora, sometimes it's like you doing stuff and you're like, "Oh, that's really from Santeria." Like getting the Ilekes, it's really such a big deal in the diaspora. But anywho, you get these pots and, they are part of your practice, and they're beautiful. You can look up Orisha pots. It's not like a pot on the stove. It's if whatever the Orisha you're initiating in, it'll have that color, and there's just things that you do, and it's this mat, and you create these altars. I love that part, and I just sit with it all, and on my darkest days, I would just go sit at my altar and cry, or for the Ilekes, will teach you 4 cowrie shell divination. And, I cast my cowries, looking for a word from the ancestors. And so, yeah, you get all of that. And I initiated, and they just told me to come and sit on my mat and listen to the Orisha. And some of my most popular videos are the ones where I'm pondering. They're old and it has this crazy sound in them because I made them in 2014 with, just this little computer on my camera, no mic. It was a mic in the computer, no real nice mic, and, um, it was like, how do I really get to know and understand Yemaya? To me, that is the ultimate, is really to be guided and not to be following a whole bunch of rules, because ultimately, there's not a whole lot of rules, so, yeah, just begin to hear from my Orisha, developing that relationship, and it's my own relationship, and understanding. And you don't need to become a priest or priestess to have this experience, because ultimately your Ori is seeking the support that you need to live out your destiny. And so, for me, I'm grateful that I didn't have to try to figure out Yemonja just within the context of Ifa, because every culture has some way of understanding higher wisdom. And so this is the way that they do it in Nigeria. Not even, it's other things happening in other parts of Africa. But there's one spirit. There's one, divine being that has manifested all of this. There's higher wisdom, and this just so happened to be wisdom in the form of Odu, right? And then there's wisdom in the form of from the Buddha, Native American spirituality, the goddess tradition. So ultimately, there's ways to learn about your Orisha. Getting out into nature, key, hang out in nature, key way to connect with the Orisha, or to learn from them. But yeah, I am grateful that I had the godparents that I have because, for instance, I read the Metu Neter and understanding Aset or Isis. That helped me to understand Yemoja. So, I just allowed myself to understand different ways of how this energy is manifested. And slowly but surely, I just began to understand myself and how my Yemoja um, works and how she manifests herself. And you're all witnessing that. No matter what, I am initiated into the goddess tradition. That has a lot to do, even check this out. That has a lot to do with why I am the way that I am and how I show up. But check this out. Check this out. When I initiated into the goddess tradition, we had these veils that were given to us. And as Iya Oshinike was showing us which veil was ours, she handed me this veil and it had blue ribbon on it. It's a white veil, but it had blue ribbon on it. I said, "You're kidding me. Yamon Ja?" That was 2006. 2006. Yamon Ja was like, "I'm gonna need to give her some little clues and insights. And, even in this goddess tradition, she better understand we working together." So, Yeah, I love that so much, and I want you to have that experience. If this tradition is for you, I want you to be able to consciously step on this path and begin to experience the beauty, the wonder that it is. And, we'll have to talk a little bit about the dark side, which I said is the people, but ultimately, Ifa as a tradition, rock solid, rock solid. Okay, that's what I have. I went, woo, 40 minutes. Forgive me. But this is my story. So, all righty. I'm going ahead and end here. Make sure that you're on the email list so that you can get all the updates about anything special that I may do. And, if you want to join, I don't want to talk money yet. Okay. I just want to talk about what I'm doing. And then I'm in the process of building the page where if you want to sign up, you can do that. And, I'm not trying to make a crazy amount of money or anything like that. But by the same token, it's a lot of work holding people spiritually. It's a lot of work. So yeah, I'll be sharing all of that. But right now, just go with me on this journey. Let's just talk about this beautiful spiritual path. So I will talk to you in the next recording. Okay. Thank you for being here. Alafia, blessings of the ancestors in the Orisha be upon you and yours now and always.